Today is January 14th. It's the 14th day of the year, and this is the On This Day podcast. Franklin Delano Roosevelt has just completed 3 things that a U.S. president has never done before: travel in an airplane, visit Africa, and leave the United States during wartime. At 5 p.m. on this day in 1943, President Roosevelt lands in Morocco for a secret 10-day meeting that will come to be known as the Casablanca Conference. Much debate among the Allied powers during World War II has centered around the creation of a second front in Europe. For 18 months, Soviet Premier Joseph Stalin has been fighting Germany on the Eastern Front. 4 million German troops are already deep within Russia, and 10 million Russians have perished. The Nazi war machine is devouring Stalin's country, and Stalin is furious with his Allied partners for not doing more to attack Germany so as to draw forces away from Russia. This topic, and others such as tactical procedures, allocation of resources, and diplomatic policy, are all on the agenda of this Allied conference in Casablanca. Besides Roosevelt and his military advisors, Great Britain's Prime Minister Winston Churchill, his military advisors, and 2 leaders of the Free French forces, General Henri Giraud and General Charles de Gaulle, are all in attendance. The French play minor roles and are not involved in military planning. Joseph Stalin declines his invitation since he is otherwise engaged in the defense of his country. The conference is very much a 2-man affair. Roosevelt and Churchill resolve to aid Russia by establishing a second front in Europe, but disagreements ensue as to the strategy. U.S. military advisors favor an assault on northwest Europe, but Churchill argues that if the invasion is to be successful, a large buildup of forces is imperative, and such a buildup takes time. Churchill pushes for a peripheral strategy to attack the Axis Empire along its Italian edge, Sicily to be exact, while at the same time the Allies will begin to build up their forces in Great Britain for a future invasion of Europe. Roosevelt mulls this over. He needs the American public to focus on and support a fight in Europe, and so he comes to an agreement with Churchill on this strategy. To assure Stalin that his allies have not forgotten about Russia, Roosevelt offers, quote, a signal of Anglo-American resolve, stating that the Allies will only accept an unconditional surrender from the Axis powers. This is highly provocative. It represents the unified voice of implacable Allied will. Together, the Allies will fight the Axis powers to their ultimate defeat. This doctrine of unconditional surrender is an extension of the Allies' war aims arising from the Atlantic Charter of August 1941. The Atlantic Charter sets forth Allied goals for a post-war world. Such goals are no territorial aggrandizement, no territorial changes made against the wishes of the people, self-determination, restoration of self-government to those deprived of it, reduction of trade restrictions, global cooperation to secure better economic and social conditions for all, freedom from fear and want, freedom of the seas and abandonment of the use of force, and lastly, disarmament of aggressor nations. Adherents of this charter in 1941 go on to sign the Declaration by United Nations in 1942. This becomes the basis for the modern United Nations. The goals of the Atlantic Charter will inspire many international agreements that come to shape the world in future years. President Roosevelt hopes that through unconditional surrender, a repeat of what happens in Germany after the First World War can be avoided. A segment of the German population that comes to believe that they have not been defeated militarily, but rather because they were stabbed in the back by liberals, pacifists, socialists, communists, and Jews. The Nazi Party exploiting this growing resentment, stoking and fanning the flames. The Allies have no interest in a separate peace agreement with the Axis powers, They seek to end wars of aggression and promote disarmament and collective security. Unconditional surrender is the only option on the table. Yet Roosevelt makes it clear that unconditional surrender does not mean the destruction of the populations of the Axis powers, but rather, quote, the destruction of the philosophies within those countries that are based on conquest and subjugation of other people. On the last day of the Casablanca Conference, which begins on this day in 1943, Winston Churchill and Franklin Roosevelt sit side by side in front of reporters who have no idea why they've been brought to Casablanca. 10 days of secret meetings come to a close, and the winds of war begin to shift in favor of the Allies. There are 351 days left in the year. On This Day is produced by me, Dave Schultz. Thank you very much for listening. Today's episode, another one written by Elizabeth Schultz. #LizzieB. On this day in 1973, Elvis Presley performs in Hawaii. The concert is broadcast by satellite around the world, and it's estimated that about a third of the world's population tunes in to watch Aloha from Hawaii. So if you're still listening, thank you very much. Talk to you tomorrow.
Oh, see, it's easy, rider. Oh, see what you have done. I said, see, it's easy, rider. Oh, see what you have done. Girl, you made me love you and love and what I say. I said, see, it's easy, rider. Oh, see what you have done. I said, see, it's easy, rider. Oh, see what you have done. Girl, you made me love you and now the man has come. What I say. Thank you very much.